Hey, Paul. Thanks for joining us today. We have a bit of a conversation on your operations at Vocus. We're doing a series of these videos to support our paper on dark operational data. So maybe you want to start off with what does Vocus do? What kind of organization is that?
Yeah, hi, Alex. Vocus is a fixed wire service provider. Generally thought of as the fourth largest carrier in Australia. Vocus plays mostly in the enterprise and government space, though you do see their consumer presence through brands like Dodo and iPrimus. They typically don't have, generally when I tell people I work for Vocus, people say, who's that? But they're actually a pretty big service provider in Australia.
Yeah, I think most people that be watching this video will be well aware of Vocus. I see a lot of manholes of Vocus in Melbourne when I walk around. I always kind of notice them. And what's your role at Vocus, Paul?
So my current role is OSS engineering. My team sort of works on the solution design and implementation for the OSS layer. We then hand those over to the operational teams. We're typically project driven, and we sort of aim to meet the project goals within our architectural strategy.
And my understanding right now is you guys are going through a major digital transformation. And this current digital transformations, what issues are you guys trying to solve there for your customers?
Yes, we're certainly going through a transformation. We've sort of been on that road for a little while now. The biggest problem that we've got is that Vocus is sort of made up of multiple disparate networks with all their respective management systems. So it's pretty hard to operate, but it's even more difficult to provision and assure services that go across those sort of internal network boundaries. So the transformation project is looking to replace this with a new network, but the goals of the network is to actually be completely automatically provisioned. There won't be a manual service that's actually built on it. And the network and the systems around that will be modeled and resource driven. And, the heart of that is a very a model driven network and resource and service inventory system to provide that, because one of the other issues is that a lot of our old services and things, you've got to hunt around for sort of how they're built in the network. There's no record of them, so our inventory systems are quite poor.
And with this new digital transformation, you guys have any security impacts or considerations?
Sure. Security is always an issue for us, particularly, in the telecommunications sector. There's a lot more governance about what goes on. We do security a bit differently. We have a whole separate network and systems is sort of set as a higher security standard, which generally deal with government and customers that require that high level of security, and the rest of our network is sort of in the enterprise space. So having those two zones makes it a little bit easier for us, but slower to actually finish. So we end up doing the transformation and do the rollout in the lower security zone in the Vocus enterprise space. And then when we're happy with that, we would push that to the secure zone. We still have to go through all the TSSR and the CIC notification, but it gives us a greater confidence that the customers that really rely on us for high network security are not going to be impacted by the transformation project.
Fair enough. And I assume situational awareness is like a big topic there as well, and going from low end to high end. But it sounds like you guys have a multi-vendor environment. Is that throwing any particular issues up for your operational teams?
Sure. It certainly makes it harder, and I think that poses sort of the greatest challenges, because in the short term, what we're doing is making the environment more complex by adding, a seventh set of technology. And it's not really until you start to push through and get all the new provisioning activity and all the service assurance and migrate services onto the new and start to turn off the old that you realize the benefits. And the interim, there's a high risk of making things worse. And we haven't completely solved this, but what we need to do is provide a better level of abstraction over the network, not only just for the new, but a proportion of the old. The trap there, you have to sort of normalize data, and you don't want to overinvest in technology that you're looking to turn off in the short term as well. So in many ways, it's a data visibility problem, trying to provide the right level of data from the new and the old for the operations to be able to manage and see the services end to end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and on that end-to-end service visibility, how do you approach that as part of?
We're trying to ensure that we're using some of the newer technology available in terms of pushing all the data into data lakes, if you like, or using time series database for performance data. So we're converting old stuff as also putting new stuff into the time series database, so that you get a better view of what is actually happening in the network. There are lots of powerful sort of tools and dashboards that we can use over the top of that. So that's really quite a good thing. The problem we haven't solved yet is events, alarms and events coming from the legacy network and the new. We have architecturally solved it, but not practically yet. We're using Kafka to actually push events onto that, so that we're going to be able to hook in closed loop automation when we get to that stage, but we haven't really solved how we're going to normalize and manage all the events from the whole network for the interim period. Yeah,
fair enough. And you mentioned automation there. So it sounds like you guys are doing closed loop automation as well as intent-based automation for your deployed network. What kind of technologies do you use for that, and what other considerations you guys are having?
We'll be quite rigorous in terms of making sure that we're using a model-driven platform that can support open config, things like that, down from at the network layer, but also using dynamic APIs based on some of the open API standards such as TMF and MEF. So what that means is that sort of when you need to change things down at the network level, it's catalog driven, so it can bubble right up to the BSS layer, so the BSS can start using those features straight away. So there's certainly I guess they're the key things we've been looking for, is models, open API standards, and having it catalog driven. And most of the work we do is configuration rather than code. That's we're not building code to do well. There's some level of code, but the code is generally fairly generic and not specific code to actually, if we need to turn on one other thing, where it should just be configuration that's actually driven down through the model.
Great, thanks. Well, those are all my questions. Thanks for giving us a tour on your current digital transformation and how that's impacting operations and the considerations you guys are making. Sounds like you guys are well on your way and having a first-rate top on network there. Good luck with that, and thanks, Paul, for the opportunity to have this conversation.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure.